cop decides he doesn't care and allows a family to freeze to death, he neglected to even search. Put up the picture full mass. This is a disturbing story. It's going to make your blood boil. Body cam reveals that a Michigan cop neglected to search for a Black mother and children who eventually froze to death because he didn't, quote, particularly care, end quote. The family of a mentally ill Black woman and her 2 children who froze to death in a field in Pontiac, Michigan, January 2023. They are now suing Oakland County and several of its deputy sheriffs, alleging they callously and willfully failed to help their loved ones to find shelter and medical care in bitterly cold conditions. Temperatures range from 23 to 31 degrees Fahrenheit as Monica Cannady, 35 years of age, her sons Malik Milton and Kyle Milton, 9, and her surviving daughter, then 10, and identified in the suit as Jane Doe, roamed the streets near Detroit during a windy winter on Friday, January 13th, 2023. So according to one of the 2 federal lawsuits currently filed on their behalf by relative Cherry Cannady, last week the children wore light clothing, had no coats, had no hats, no gloves, were draped in bed sheets, and, quote, were in imminent danger of severe injury or death, as they and their mother had multiple encounters with Oakland deputies who either refused or negligently failed to usher them to safety. At 1:01 p.m. on that Friday, a, quote, Good Samaritan called the Oakland County Sheriff's Office via 911, reporting that a family of 4 was knocking on doors, asking for help, and wearing only bed sheets to protect them from the cold, the complaint says. The caller, who had turned the family away and then observed Monica Cannady trying to break into a neighbor's house, requested a welfare check. So Officer Kazol was overheard on body cam for 16 minutes disclosing what he really thought to a colleague, referring to Johnson. The officer said, quote, what really grinds my gears is that these people can't just mind their own effing business. Then complained about not being able to do, quote, real police work. He continued, quote, what do you want me to do? Rip them out of their mother's arms and effing spend 7 hours trying to get them into CPS protective custody because they're out on the street with their mom and it's kind of cold out, question mark. The kids will still be there in an hour. And when we get another welfare check, people in Pontiac just don't die. It's a CYA, cover your ass, because a dumbass ghetto politician can't just leave well enough alone because it is kind of cold out, end quote. Put up the community. So as you can see, Kazol, the officer, summed up his point of view about searching for Monica and her minor children by announcing, quote, I don't particularly care, the lawsuit says. Johnson continued calling 911 to update the authorities on Cannady and her family's location. Deputies eventually arrived to search the area where the mother had put up a tent. Deputy Brish performed what's called a cursory search around the tent and reportedly told deputies he made sure to wave his flashlight around to make it look like he was searching for the family, the lawsuit claims. Meanwhile, Officer Kazol allegedly made no effort to find them and took off in his squad car. Later in the evening, Officer Kazel waved off another call from dispatch to find the family, saying he was busy on patrol. The next day, Cannady and her children continued to wander the area on foot, knocking on doors for help. The complaint says deputies made no further efforts to find them that weekend, while family members and friends stood watch near her home. Then comes Sunday, January 15th, 2023, 3:13 p.m. A 10-year-old Jane Doe woke up in a vacant field near a former housing project where the family had slept the night before. Her mother and two brothers had frozen to death. The girl said that at one point her mother sat down next to the children and told them she loved them, that she was going to miss them, and that she hoped to go to heaven. Then the girl and her mother exchanged hugs and a kiss. In violation of their duty, the complaint says, quote, defendants made a conscious decision to ignore calls, to not search for plaintiff's descendants, to not complete a welfare check, and to abandon efforts to search for and protect Monica and her children before they suffered serious and fatal injuries due to the cold. Atlanta Black Star reports the lawsuit representing the family estate seeks a jury trial to determine monetary damages to compensate for the family members' wrongful deaths, as well as medical, hospital, funeral, burial expenses, and compensation for the pain and suffering while conscious undergone by the descendant plaintiffs between their time and injury and death. Keep that picture up. You see, racism is deadly, isn't it? Just because of the negligence and likely bigotry of one cop protected by his division of officers, they blame, as he would say, a ghetto politician who actually had care and concern to create a policy of action when this happens. He doesn't like that. So he decides to literally engage in actions that made it appear that he cared, that made it appear he did something or they tried, when the truth is not only did they not try, not only was it inauthentic, they actually waved off the opportunity to provide help. And one quote strikes me. I want you to keep that picture up. The officer says, "What do you expect us to do? Get the mother, spend 7 hours talking to child protection or getting them in a facility?" Yes, that's exactly what we expect you to do. To cops, to every cop who sees this clip, this is why you all are not considered heroes. If you want to be a hero, because I would have easily done this story if it went the other way. We highlight great cops on this show. But if you want to have the reputation as a hero, do some heroic stuff. The citizens of the community showed more concern than you did. The difference is they're not being paid by tax dollars. They did not take an oath to serve and protect. You did. And you decided to do everything but. Kazel, the officer, resigned shortly after the deaths. The Free Press has reported he has maintained that he searched for the family twice and that the sheriff's office wanted to make him the, quote, fall guy. Once again, he's blaming everybody but his damn self. For other deputies who should have done more to help the family, he says. He attempted to join the Detroit police, but was unsuccessful. He now works as a security guard. All right. One of the saddest stories, because you hear the attempts made by the mother to find remedy, to find housing, to find opportunity for shelter, for warmth. You see the inaction of law enforcement, and then we have the actual transcript of their attitude toward the general community, that they are there to actually protect and serve. So you have the microcosm of that situation. Then you have the macrocosm of the fact, why in the hell doesn't the community, the county, the city have viable options for a mother and her children? She's left to knock on doors. This is a policy issue. This is a policy issue. I remember coming back, my last year in law school, I'm coming back from Alabama. This is about 12 midnight Saturday. And I'm coming back from Alabama, headed to Georgia. And I stop at this convenience store. And outside of the convenience store, there are these two people. There's one white male, he has to be 75, 80. He's singing on the small karaoke machine with his wife, who has to be around 65, 70 herself. And I said, what's going on? Like, I think they're doing this for fun. They weren't. They're doing it because he had just got laid off from his job. But because of some of the rules and Social Security benefits, he no longer could qualify for Social Security, so he needed to make this additional income. And I gave him a $50 bill or $100 or something. I just wanted time with him. And we sat and we talked, and we ended up singing some songs together. And I remember him saying how much of a failure he felt like. This man worked his whole life, was now about to be homeless himself, a senior citizen, can't get access to Social Security that he paid into. And he blamed himself. And I remember telling him the issue is not a personal issue, it's a policy issue. You did the right thing. But this is how twisted this nation has us. They would tell us, pay into these systems, pay your taxes, do your part. And when it doesn't work out, don't blame them. Don't blame the politicians and the policymakers, blame yourself. All right, dear brother, thoughts?
My thoughts are very simple. No one should freeze to death in the United States of America. It's that simple. This is the United States of America, the most powerful, the richest, in our own words, the best country on earth. And yet, in this modern day, we still have people freezing to death. This is a breakdown on so many levels. It's a breakdown on civil society. It's a breakdown in policy. It's a breakdown in the department. It's a breakdown in that police officer himself. What did we expect you to do? We expected you to care. We expected you to do your job. We expected you to do your duty, the one that you get paid for. Nevertheless, the oath that you have taken, the idea of it comes down to the cursory search. That means that you did a hasty and not thorough search just to look like you did your job. What did we expect you to do? How come when police officers are doing something that's in the detriment, they are quick to act? He wants to do real police action and real police duty. What did he mean? He wants to shoot unarmed Black people in the action of not investigating a robbery. That's what he really meant that he wanted to do. He wanted to do the action. Well, sometimes it's not just about the action, it's also about the satisfaction of the society at large. You are there to protect and serve. And I have so much respect for good police officers, but even more disdain for bad police officers. Yeah. You, sir, are a bad police officer. And more than that, you are a bad person. And it is that simple. And I am sorry that you have to hear it on this show because you don't even know it in your own heart. So yes. My condolences. By the way, this is the second family that is frozen to death in that Michigan. If you remember, there's a mother that had 2 children die in a car as they were parked in a casino. And while they do welfare checks when they want to take away little black kids, when you have to help them, there's no one there for you. And when you use the word ghetto, we know what you meant. You didn't say that about the white politicians, you meant the black politicians. There's something wrong with you. The rest of the world, so many people would have helped if they could, and yet you did not.
Very well said, dear brother. We'll bring you updates as they come. This story still may have some developments.